In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to edit a reference that you put into a forum post in Leo so that it picks up the hanging indent that is part of the APA style. Now, this is only for those of you who are interested in doing this. It's certainly not a requirement. It's not a virtual workshop task. It's just I have noticed that some of you are beginning to try and work out how you do indent your references, and so I thought I'd let you in on the secret. Remember, it's all part of becoming an adept user of Leo, and we tend to use Leo as something that throws information at us, but actually we as the learner and as the user can actually use Leo to our advantage and use some of its functionality to actually make posts look really good and really professional, amongst other things. So I'm going to just create a new message, and I'm going to go into the week 5 module and go down to the general discussion forum, and I'm going to create a new message which I'm going to call APA indent, APA hanging indent. Okay, and into the message component of the post, I'm going to put in my references. Now, just note here that in APA, your reference list is called references. It's not called reference list. It's not called bibliography. And in APA, we only put something into the reference list if we have directly used it, i.e., cited it, whether through an in-text cite, through a paraphrase, or through a quote in the main body of our writing. And under that, I am going to paste in a reference, which I have ready prepared, like that. I'm then just going to post this message and go back and look at it so we can see what we're talking about. You can see here that the forum post is quite a long one, and so it's on 2 different lines. But the second line is not indented; it's still flush with the first line of it. So I'm going to go back in and edit that. But what I want to show you first of all is, when you go into week 5, underneath the resources section, we've got 5A and 5B at the moment. As soon as this video is published, we've got 5A and 5C at the moment. As soon as this video is published, it'll be 5B. But here in resource 5C, you've got APA indent HTML code. And if you open that up, it gives you a series of letters and numbers and characters that is HTML code that in a moment you'll see will tell that reference to indent as an APA reference should. So HTML is the code that for a very long time sits behind websites, and it basically allows people to write websites. These days we have software packages that do it for us, but in the olden days, so 20 years ago, 25 years ago, in order to create a website, you needed to know this kind of language, and you needed to know what it meant. For the purposes of this exercise, you don't. Okay, so back into Leo, back into the message that I've just created, and I'm now going to edit that message and set it so that this reference indents. So the first thing you need to do is go into the place within Leo that allows you to play around with HTML code, and you'll notice here there's this little symbol, and it's called toolbar toggle. Click on that once, and a range of other options open up for you. If you haven't done that yet, you'll actually find these quite good. You can play around with text color, size, underlining, all that kind of thing. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go into the HTML section. So you want to hover your mouse over this little icon here, which is called Edit HTML Source, and click on that. And what it does is it brings up the HTML version of the reference we've put in there. And you'll notice that at this stage, the only thing that is different is really these P's in angle brackets and the /P in angle brackets. And what that is telling us that this P here is beginning of a new paragraph. And this P with the / is end of paragraph. So that / means end of. So this is the start of a paragraph, end of the paragraph. New paragraph, start of the paragraph, end of the paragraph. And it is the creation of the new paragraph here that puts this text onto a different line. So what we're going to do is actually, first of all, just do a bit of editing here, and then we're going to go back to that code that I showed you earlier on. So references is fine. We want that to stay there. But what we're just going to do for now is take out the P in front of Jefferson and the angle brackets, and take out the angle, the /P at the end. Now the system might pop that back in again, and if it does, it doesn't matter. We can play around with it. But what you've done there is you've taken that little bit of code out because we don't need it. I'm then going to go to the document that I opened up earlier on, so which is resource 5C, and the code comes in two sections. So you've got this bit of code, which is the start of it, and then you've got this bit of code, which as you can see has got a whole load of / in it, which is basically the end of the code, end of the code that tells the reference to indent. So I'm going to copy this first bit. I'm going to go back to my message, and you'll remember that we're in the HTML coding part of it, and I need to put this somewhere. So it's at the start of the reference. So it's not reference in front of references, but it's the start of the reference itself. So I'm going to put my cursor in front of the J of Jefferson, and I'm going to do Command V or Control V, depending on the computer you're on, and I'm going to add that code in. And you'll now see that that bit of code is sitting there. And that's the start of the code. What we want to do now is add in that last bit. So I go back to the document with the code on it, and I copy that last little bit, back to my message, and make sure my cursor's at the end of the reference, and then do Command V or Control V. And now that code has been added. Now what I do is I click on Update down in the left here, and you'll see that my reference has updated, and my reference is now indented. Just a couple of other things that you want to do as well. Now that we are all experts in APA referencing, you will notice that this is a section within a book. So the book needs to be italicized, which I've just done there. So that is now a nice hanging indent. And if I click on Save Changes, you will notice that in my message, I now have this. I now have a reference that is indented. If I was then to change the size of the window, you'll see that it moves. Okay, so changing the size of my browser window, and that bit of code actually moves. So I really encourage you to give that a go if you would like to. Remember that you need to go into the HTML bit, so if you just do it in a normal message, the code will just appear. But it goes some way to giving you a bit more autonomy in Leo, and it's quite a fun thing to play around with.